She was not supposed to find out this way. Nobody planned for this moment. Nobody sat down and decided that this was how the truth was going to come out. It just happened. The way these things always happen, quietly, accidentally, in an ordinary moment that suddenly turns into the moment that changes everything. She saw something, something that was never meant for her eyes. And after she saw it, nothing inside that palace was ever the same again. This is the story of what Sheikh Hamdan's wife discovered and why it broke something that could never be fully repaired. When people think about Sheikh Hamdan, Fazza, they think about the poetry, the horses, the adventures, the face that has stopped millions of women mid scroll. Because there is something in his eyes that feels like he is carrying a secret. And they are right. He has always been carrying a secret, a big one that he buried as deep as he could and covered with poems and public appearances and a smile that the whole world fell in love with. But secrets have a way of surviving, no matter how deep you bury them. And this one eventually found its way to the surface. To understand what she saw, you have to understand the life Hamdan was living before his marriage even began. Long before 2019, long before the wedding that the royal family had planned and the alliance that his father had decided on, Hamdan had a life, a real life, with real feelings. And at the center of those feelings was a woman, not a princess, not someone chosen by anyone, just a woman he had fallen deeply and completely in love with on his own terms. She was not part of his world in any official sense. She did not attend royal dinners. She did not appear at state events. She existed in the private part of Hamdan's life, the part that never made it onto Instagram, never made it into the newspapers, never made it into the carefully managed image of the Crown Prince of Dubai. But she was real, more real to him than almost anything else in his life. And the proof of that was everywhere, hidden in plain sight, in the poems he had been writing for years. His poems have always been the one place where Hamdan tells the truth. When everything else in his life has to be controlled and managed and presented to the world in exactly the right way, the poetry gets to be honest. And for years, the poems spoke about longing, about loving someone from a distance, about wanting something that the world would not allow him to have. People read those poems and thought they were beautiful. And they are. But they are also a record, a detailed emotional record of a love that Hamdan was never supposed to have and could never fully let go of. Then came the marriage. June 2019. Sheikha bint Said Al Thani, his first cousin from his mother's side, chosen by his father Sheikh Mohammed for all the right political reasons. This was not about love. This was about the future of Dubai, about the strength of the Al Maktoum family, about building walls around the crown that no outside force could ever break through. Hamdan agreed, because when you are the crown prince, agreeing is sometimes the only option you are given. Sheikha came into this marriage with hope. She is a dignified woman, a graceful woman, and she believed, the way most people believe when they start a new chapter, that things would find their way, that the distance she felt in her husband would slowly close, that the connection would grow, that she would eventually reach the part of him that felt so far away. She tried. She was patient. She was present. But there are walls inside a person that patience alone cannot break through. And Hamdan had built those walls around something he was protecting very carefully. Then she saw it. Nobody knows the exact moment. Nobody knows whether it was a message, a photograph, a poem written in a private notebook, or something else entirely. What we know is that Sheikha saw something she was never supposed to see, something that showed her Clearly, undeniably, that her husband's heart had never fully arrived in their marriage, that there was someone else. Not as a rumor, not as a suspicion, as a fact. A real, documented, undeniable fact. And when that fact landed in front of her, everything she had been telling herself, every reason she had held on to for staying patient and hopeful, collapsed at once. The woman Hamdan loved was not a stranger. She had been there the entire time, in the background of his life, in the words of his poetry, in the part of him that Shikha had always felt but could never quite name. And now she had a name for it, and a face, and a history that went back years before Shikha had ever entered the picture. She had not lost her husband to someone new. She had never fully had him to begin with. And that realization, that specific kind of heartbreak, is one of the most painful things a person can ever experience. What happened next unfolded quietly, the way things always unfold in royal families. No public scenes, no headlines, no official statements. Just a slow, dignified unraveling behind palace walls that the rest of the world never got to see. Sheikha eventually left. Hamdan did not stop her, not because he did not care, but because there was nothing honest he could have said to make her stay. The truth was already out, and the truth had made staying impossible. After that, Hamdan went back to the woman he had always loved. He married her privately. She became the mother of his children, and for a moment it seemed like the chapter had closed in the only way it honestly could have. But royal families do not let chapters close that easily. Political pressure, family expectations, and the shifting landscape of power in the UAE brought everything back around again. That woman eventually had to step back too, had to leave, had to take the children somewhere quiet while Hamdan returned to his public role and his public life and his very private grief. The poems after all of this got heavier, darker, more tired. He wrote about souls searching for peace and not finding it, about wanting rest from a life that never stopped demanding more. He showed up to every event he was supposed to show up to. He smiled when smiling was required. He performed the role of the crown prince with the same grace and dignity he has always shown the world. But the eyes, always the eyes, told a different story. A story about a man who much watched his wife discover the one secret he had spent years protecting, and who has been living with the weight of that moment ever since. She saw something she was never supposed to see, and in seeing it, she set in motion a chain of events that changed Hamdan's life forever. Not because she did anything wrong, but because the truth, once it is out, does not go back. It does not apologize. It does not